Hello, my name is Shane in Sweden, and in this series of video presentations, we're going to look at an e-commerce topic, and that is how you can automate administrative tasks in Squarespace using Selenium and C#.
Now, in part one of the video series, we looked at adding a digital product to our shop. And we went through the actions that were necessary to add a digital product to our e-commerce shop. And in the end, we in fact just added this product with images and title and description. And we discovered that the whole process took us around 2.5 minutes, and that this would entail a very large job for us if we were going to carry out and load up our full 1,500 products using this manual method. So it seemed like a fairly good candidate for automation. At this point in the video work, I'd actually just jumped straight into creating data structures that would support the attribute information we needed when we're loading up each digital product. But it was the wrong point in time for this work, because right now we need to focus on logging in and automating logging into Squarespace. We only need the data structures describing each digital product when we're actually loading up digital products, which happens later on in the video sequence. So this bit of the work I've actually moved to later on in the video course sequence, and right now there's going to be just an abrupt jump to where we start to automate Squarespace logging in. So I hope you can bear with us. Okay, our next test here will be to do the Squarespace. So let's add a new class. Squarespace manager tests. And the first test here will be to log into Squarespace. And here, first of all, we want to create a Squarespace manager. So let's just create a new class, add a new class here. And this Squarespace manager will hold our Squarespace methods. And that would be a public class. And the Squarespace manager will contain our WebDriver, which will be a ChromeDriver from Selenium. So we need to install into our Squarespace manager class. It needs to have the references for Selenium. So let's just do that. So we want Selenium WebDriver. And we're going to be running things from Chrome. So we're going to use the Selenium Chrome WebDriver. So the first thing here we're going to do is initialize a Chrome WebDriver. And this is where we initially set up our Chrome driver. And here as an act, going to have a manager log into Squarespace. And when we've logged in, we're going to find something, some button that's visible. Call this sun button is visible. Let's create these methods. And here initially we're just going to return false. And in init driver, we're going to create a new ChromeDriver, which will be a private property of the manager. But we probably want to pass some options to that. So let's do Chrome options. And we're going to add a user agent. And you can find plenty of these strings on the net. We also want to set it up so that we're always looking at it at a full screen window. So let's set the window to maximize. Okay, that should work for the moment. Now, we want to log into Squarespace. What does that actually mean? Well, let's have a quick look at what we have to actually do to accomplish that. Okay, the first thing we have to do is click on the login button, whatever that is. We need to click on the login button. And let's inspect that. Now we can see it's got a class of login button. So let's copy that element over. And this is what we're going to use to class the login button. And once we click on that, we come to a screen where we have to enter an email address. And some sort of a password. So let's have a look and see what these elements are. This element has a name email. So we've got the username here has a class username and it has a name email. Okay, and then the next one. Here we can see it has a name which is password. So password has an input class which is password and a name password. And once we've entered those two things, we get this second login button. Which we see has a class called spinner button, SC. So login button number 2 has a class spinner button. Okay, so let's see if we can build this into our system. One more thing is that Squarespace login has a two-factor authentication, so that when we've entered our username and our password, we come here, so we have to enter the code. But this bit we're just going to do manually, I think, at the moment. It is possible to work through a Google two-factor authentication using Google secrets and stuff. And perhaps I'll show that in another video, but for the moment we'll just do this bit manually. Remember, we're only logging in once each time in a session, and then we're uploading a large number of products. So it's okay to have this step as a manual step at the moment. You may consider automating it fully at a later stage. So if I enter in my two-factor authentication, and then we log in. And when we log in, we can see our website. We can see here we've got a specific class, screenshot image. And we can use that as a test to see that we've actually logged in. So let's just copy that element. So as you can see, we've got the main elements we need to interact with through Selenium, and we've even got the element which we can use to test that our test has run correctly. So let's encode this and get on with it. So let's just copy in our facts as comments. And let's go back to our test. So here we're going to say our website button. And let's get rid of some button is visible, which we don't need anymore. And here we've got driver.find element, and we're going to do it by class. Sorry, that should be an iWeb element. And here we've got the class. And if element is not equal to null, then we return true. Otherwise, we return false. Okay, so if we run our test, we should get a false result. Oh, and actually we're getting an error here because it's not finding the ChromeDriver. Squarespace auto test, bin debug. Well, actually the ChromeDriver is there. Then I suspect sometimes it just needs a bit of a nudge. We need to be able to tell it where to find a ChromeDriver. So let's do that. And we can do that by giving the ChromeDriver a path. So here, for example, we were going to add options, which we forgot. But if we look at the different arguments, we have options, and then we've got the ChromeDriver directory, and then we've got the ChromeDriver directory and options, which is what we want here. So we're just going to pass it that options, that ChromeDriver directory. Have we run the test again? It should really be able to find these ChromeDriver exes itself, but sometimes it just needs that little nudge. And we can see it starts up. Now we're not actually doing anything, so the test should then come down to there. We're looking for that spinner button, and it's not there. Okay, so now we just need to code into our login method so that it does find the spinner button class. First of all, we have to actually navigate to the URL. And then we've got to find the login button. And we've got this class. And once we found that element, we want to obviously click on it. That should give us the login page, but we may want to wait for a bit. So let's give it a chance to load up. So let's just create a method called wait seconds, and we'll maybe wait 2. And let's create a method. And here we can just do something simple like thread.sleep for seconds to wait. Times 1,000. Since thread.sleep is in milliseconds. Okay, that'll give us 2 seconds to load up this page, at which point we should be able to find the email class. So we need to find that. And it's by name actually this time, so let's take that away. and the name is email. Now, when we found this element, we don't want to click it in this case, we want to fill it in with text. So we'll use send keys and we'll put in an email address, which was john.doe@hotmail.com. And the same for our password. And here we're going to use our usual Swedish password, which is very common, Summer 2019. And then we've got to hit the login button, the second login button, which was the spinner button. Find the button by class name again. And this one we want to click on as well. Let's get rid of that second. Okay, so we push the first login, so we get the login screen, we add our email, we add our password, we click on the login button, and that should take us to the website. But actually, we've suddenly realized we have to actually have here a wait for our Google Authenticator to do its job. So we need to wait here in some way so that we actually have a chance to fill in our authentication code from Google Authenticator. And when that's done, we need to click on the next login, which comes from the Authenticator screen. Okay, so how do we wait? Well, there is actually a wait function in Selenium, which we can use. And the question is, what are we waiting for? Well, we're waiting for the image to turn up where we actually can see our website. So we're looking for this. This shows us that we've logged in and that we've gone past the authentication code. So if we just look at inspect this item, we can see what it is. It's that class with the screenshot image. And that's how we know when we've logged in. Okay, so the Selenium wait function, we can just create a new method here. We're going to wait for class, and we know which class we want to wait for. Now I only copied the first part of the class because Selenium doesn't support spaces between class names. Actually, we don't need any more login buttons. When we're filling in the authentication code, we can click on the login button ourselves. So let's build this method. How does this work? Well, we create a WebDriver wait. And this will be a new WebDriver wait. And we give it as an input our driver, and we also want to give it a time that we're going to wait. In fact, actually, we should do that in our initial parameter here. So let's just add, say, we want to wait for 30 seconds. And we'll add that parameter to our method. So here is class to find. And here we've got seconds, max wait in seconds. And we'll create a time span because this method WebDriver wait uses a time span from seconds. So what this means is that this element will wait for something for a maximum of 30 seconds. This we sent in, and at that point it will stop waiting and give us an error. So we want to do a wait until. And let's do something with our driver. Now we could do just a driver find element, but the problem is that if we don't find it, the first time it checks if the element is not present, we'll get an exception. So we want to have some sort of find method that would be safe, that won't generate an exception. So let's create a new method called safe find. And we'll do our usual by our class name here, the class name we want to find. Class to find. And this safe find is just a find element that doesn't generate an error. So we want to return an iWeb element. And we're going to do a try. Here we do a return driver find element, and we just pass it the by we've sent in. Now if it doesn't find it, it'll generate an exception. And we don't want an exception, we just want it to return a null. So now this thing will wait for 30 seconds or until it sees this object. And at this point we would like to click on the website. So we want to sort of click on this website. So how do we click on this website? Well, we have this element here and we can use a Selenium function called find element by XPath and click on it. So we can add that in, driver.find element by XPath. And we just copied that XPath from our website, so we can just paste it in. Now we've got double apostrophe here, so we have to escape these. Okay, and we should be ready to test our login all the way to the point where we've taken up our website functions. However, one more thing just before we test this, we need to change our username and password to the real username password. And if you don't mind, I'm going to do that off screen. Okay, so I've changed the username and password to my real correct login information, and we're going to now test our login. We get the main page. The system should automatically click on the login button, and it does. And you can see it's being controlled. We add our username and we add our password, and we should click on the login button automatically, which it does. We come to authentication code. This is the bit I have to do manually, so I'll fill in my authentication code, and then I can manually click on this login button. And it should take us to our website, which it does, and it should automatically click on the website and take us to our website functions. Okay, and I just noticed when we find this element, we're actually not doing anything with it. What we want to do is actually click on that element so that we come into the website. So now we should be ready to actually do our test. Okay, Chrome has started up the automatic browser. It should automatically press this login button, which it does. It should fill in the correct username and the correct password, and should press this login button, which does. It'll wait now for 30 seconds for us to fill in this authentication code, and we manually press the login button here, and then it will wait for up to 30 seconds for this website button to appear, and when it does, it clicks on it. And we come to our website. Now there are a lot of functions we can do here, a lot of administration, but really we're interested in going to inventory so that we can add a digital product. So let's inspect this button or link, and we can see we've got a span here, which is inventory. So let's copy the XPath. Okay, and we're going to create a new test here where we'll use this XPath. So let's create a new test. Except that this one's going to be login Squarespace and load inventory. Now we want to keep the load inventory separate from the login because at the moment our main focus is on adding a new product, which we do from inventory, but we may want to automate other administrative tasks, so we want to keep our methods separate. And here we're going to add a new method, which is load inventory. And we're also going to change this because we know when the inventory is loaded because we're able to see the add product button. So for example, we go to inventory, we've got this add product button, which if we inspect, has also its own class. Okay, so we want to create a separate method which is add product button is visible. And let's just add these methods and add this method. Right, so let's go to load inventory. And here we're just going to wait for 2 seconds. And then we're going to find elements by XPath. And click on it. And that should load it. And how do we know the product is visible? Well, we can copy this method, except we're going to take the class information for this button and paste it in here instead. Okay, so now we can run this test and see if we can come all the way to our inventory page. Except if you remember when we copied this text, it was commented text, so we've got 2 forward slashes too many. So let's just get rid of that so that our search XPath is correct. And then we can test. So let's run our test. Okay, we log in with the username and the password. System presses the login button automatically. We give our authentication code. We manually click on the login button there. It should take us to our choice of websites. We automatically choose our website. And now we should automatically click on the inventory button somewhere up here. And that should take us to our product page, which it does. So we have successfully completed our login to Squarespace and have successfully loaded the product page. So we're ready for the next part, which would be adding products. We need to automate that task as well. But I think that's good enough for us for this part of the video. And we will look at uploading a digital product in the next video part. Thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this so far.